in Baltimore and double Orioles. We're happy to have them at home, happy to have them chasing down the Houston Astros this weekend out on the road, and certainly the Preakness was all the rage here for at least 48 hours over the weekend. All 140,000 of those who showed up. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Rob Carlin is much like myself right now because he was Caps and Wizards and Caps, and every night and trying to keep an eye on the Nationals and the Orioles at Comcast Sportsnet and Comcast Sports Mid-Atlantic. Rob, what are we going to do with the next 3 weeks, man? I had the whole calendar open for the Caps and stuff. I'm still decompressing, and I know you are as well.
Yeah, man. We had big plans at the network to run than we did, and it really, certainly for the Caps, all my friends who I work with who are from the area and lifelong Caps fans, and then even those Caps fans that I interact with on Twitter or out in public or whatever, who were like, during January when they were on that great roll, were like, yep, wake me in April. And I was like, no, it's different. And then when they got to the playoffs and they were like, I'll believe it when I see the third round, I'm like, no, it's different. This is a great team. At this point, I was like, you're right. You're right. I should have trusted your 40 years of history to tell me otherwise. It was, they've done almost everything they can short of, quote unquote, blowing it up, which is really attacking the three core pieces at this point of Carlson, Backstrom, or Ovi, and it hasn't worked. They've done it. They've done everything. We thought they checked all the boxes, and there is a mental hurdle with that team that they cannot get past. And here we are watching, ironically, Nashville, potentially going to the Stanley Cup final while Nashville's old coach is back home again with the Caps.
Yeah, I got a whole closet full of Predator stuff. If my cord were long enough, I'd pull it all out of the closet and just put on. I may wear my Predators jersey, at one point, post-clinch, just as a show of support in some way, and especially if they're playing Pittsburgh, right? I mean, it's easy to hate on Pittsburgh at this point. Dude, I have not even – you're the first guy I've reached out to. I've left Locker alone. I haven't bothered Joe B. Poor Al Koken, smoking Al. I've left him alone. And doing this sort of post-mortem on the season, right? And, maybe once a week for the next 8 weeks, I'll bring one of you on to just talk it through and sort of, heal the wounds a little bit of all this stuff. But I know you grew up Islanders, but you've watched the Capitals from afar and you've seen this thing from both sides of the fence. It's almost like the Ronnie Millsap song, right? It's too sad to write. It's too sad to talk about. But I can't talk about busting it up, right? You don't bust up the best team in hockey and say you did something good, like you want to come back next year and scrap to get 92 points and be a 6 seed because that would be better. Dude, it would not be better. These last 2 years have been so incredible that I don't know that we talk about busting things up. I'm trying to figure out how to keep TJ Oshie in this thing, but I will say on the Ovechkin thing, if there's a bust up to happen, there is a case to be made that he's become one-dimensional. There's a case to be made that his best hockey's in the rear-view mirror, and it's not ahead of the dashboard anymore. I will hear that in the case of Ovechkin. I mean, to me, that's a real talking point about where they're going to go with him.
Yeah, I agree, although, look, he has one remarkable talent that made him the best natural goal scorer on the planet for his entire career. And he's always been sort of one-dimensional, but that one dimension was so unbelievably prolific that you dealt with whatever. And I think he's actually played better all-around hockey the last couple of years. My problem with any potential thought of ever trading Ovi is, A, it's a business. And like you said, you got to fill that arena on, whatever the second week in October with whatever you get in that trade, which to me is going to be pennies on the dollar. You are trading a guy whose best talent is probably going to be in the rearview mirror if it isn't sort of already. So now you're going to get, 3 pieces maybe that just aren't going to be worth it. And like you said, you're going to go out there with an inferior team without a true superstar and the guy who built the Rock the Red. I just don't know where that's better. Now, this is even crazier, but to me, and this is purely me just doing talk radio right now, This, to me, if you want to get impact players, someone like Nicholas Backstrom is going to bring you a haul. Maybe you call Colorado and see if, Nathan McKinnon or Matt Duchene and one of their defensemen and maybe a draft pick. And now you start saying, okay, we're changing up the team. You got to get back a center. You can't give up a center because forever that was their problem. You got to get back a center. But if you can try and find the Tyler Seguin, some young star that's not working somewhere, and include him in the trade, and then he becomes the star that everyone expected, that to me would be something to explore. Ovi, you're going to be the guy who traded Ovi, and you're not going to get back anywhere near, in every sense of the word, financially or on the ice, what you just gave up. But it's tough. This is the conundrum of where they are right now, because they basically were built to have won or at least been in a few Stanley Cup finals at this point, because they're at the point where they've got a ton of free agents and a ton of old guys and younger guys who are about to come up to big money and haven't necessarily produced. That's usually a team that's that's the Chicago Blackhawks. That's the LA Kings. They won cups. The Caps are in that place and haven't even been in the third round. So they're in a really, really tough spot right now.
Always love talking hockey with Rob Carlin. You can find him at Rob Carlin CSN out on Twitter, and of course each and every night at Sports Talk CSN as well on Twitter as well. The market for Ovechkin, it's if you were to deal him, let's just pretend you're going to deal him at this point, right? Okay. How many teams are out there? I mean, what really is the marketplace? You're talking about getting pennies back on the dollar, but who wants him? Who wants the salary? Who wants to give you anything for him at this point?
That's you're taking on 4 years at $10 million per for, a guy who he still scored 30-some odd goals this year. It's not nothing. It's just not the fit we're growing accustomed to with him. But yeah, it's a small market that you're going to choose from. I mean, obviously, you think about it, the Rangers would take that on because, you're not going to give them to the Rangers. You don't want them to come back and beat you, however many times a year you're going to end up playing or in a playoff series. So, it limits. You're not going to trade him to Pittsburgh. You're not going to trade him to the Rangers. You're not going to trade anyone in division. Philadelphia, you're not going to trade him to. I'm sure he's got a no-move clause that's involved, so I'm sure there's only a handful of teams you could, trade him to. So, again, you have to find someone that's willing to take that on. Now, I don't know if there's a team, and believe me, we have talked about this a lot at work, the what-if, the play-it-forward game. There's not too many guys that we've been able to come up with that could be a true trading partner if you give me this, this, and this. Because every time you say it, like someone will be like, well, let's trade him to Calgary for Johnny Gaudreau. I'm like, okay, forget, what are you talking about? They're not going to give up their best young talent for this. So to say it is great. Yeah, trade Ovi, blow it up. Sit down. Try and go around the NHL. Pick out a few rosters. See who would be willing to do it. It's not easy. That's why superstars like that just don't get traded. The Edmonton Oilers, in a totally different world back in the 80s, and it was a financial thing, and they had won 4 cups, and they still had Messier and Curry and all those guys. They traded Gretzky. It did not work well for them. It was not, it was not a good trade ultimately.
It took them until last week to get relevant again.
Right, exactly. So it's very easy to say, way harder to do.
Well, and then there are the Philip Forsberg. Pine away a little bit for me on that. I mean,
I can't. I'm not, again, I didn't grow up here. This isn't in my blood, but I was there on trade day when that trade was made. And I was, and that was a late trade in the day. So we got word, we were on the air. We got word that the Caps pulled off a trade. I'm like, holy smokes, this could be it. And then we heard Forsberg for Erat, and immediately everyone was like, well, that's a terrible trade. And then as it's played out now, literally, there was a newspaper article in the Tennessean the other day that his teammates are calling him Mr. Clutch. The Caps gave up a kid who's a superstar. The team that has desperately needed someone to be clutch for 10 years literally gave away a guy they're now calling Mr. Clutch.
Dude, at least when the Orioles gave Arrieta away, he stunk for 4 years before they gave him away, right? So, I mean, you can at least make half a case
there, right? With that. Yeah, you could live with that. Philip Forsberg you knew he was going to be a star. In fact, had they just called him up and not made any move, you can make a case that they may have been to a cup by now, but that one, I'm not mature enough to get past it.
Rob, I'm sorry.
Keep trying to out it, and then I'm like, you know what? I work there. Let me let it go.
Rob Carlin joining us here. He's Rob Carlin, CSN, of course, out of Sports Talk, CSN. Then there's the other side of this thing, right? You and I will talk more hockey. We'll get back into it and all that. Then there's the disappointment of the Wizards and what the Leonsis family and the whole Monumental family's been together. There were visions of sugar plums. I never believed they were winning the NBA Finals. I never really believed they were going to go to the NBA Finals, but certainly would have put up more scratching and clawing than the Celtics have put up this week, right?
No doubt. I mean, the Celtics have just tapped out, and now Isaiah Thomas is done. So, they could have waved the white flag on the series at halftime of Game 2. I definitely think the Wiz would have given them a better battle. Now, Chris Miller, who is as good a reporter and the best reporter with the Wiz, certainly in D.C., he sat down with Bradley Beal after the series with Boston was over, and he kind of led Bradley into it by saying, what could have been, Cleveland wouldn't want any part of you. And Brad's like, no, man, they didn't want any part of us. I kept saying that, and I was like, pump the brakes a little bit. I like the fact that you're confident in yourself and whatever, but LeBron's been going on 7 straight NBA Finals. The Wiz haven't even been to a third round yet either. I don't think LeBron
go win Game 7 first. Don't let Olenek beat you.
Exactly.
It really. They were in a position. Not that the Caps weren't hosting Game 7 against Pittsburgh, right? And with momentum and winning a couple of games as well to force Game 7, it was sitting there for both of these franchises, but maybe even more so for the Wizards because they certainly had some life and some pep to them in Game 7 in the second half. That really could have gone either way. You could write that story a different way, I think.
I'm with you. I thought they were the better team than the Celtics. And I get that the Celtics were the 1 seed, so 82-game sample, whatever. I thought they were a better team matchup-wise than the Celtics. And, if you tell me, okay, the only way the Celtics are winning Game 7 is if Kelly Olynyk goes off for 26, all right, I'll take those odds. He was great. He was unbelievable that night, and the Wiz let him be unbelievable. But that was the only way they were winning that, and it was a total. And the biggest thing for the Wizards and for John Wall and to an extent Bradley Beal, the Wizards have sort of, and I hate to say this because obviously we're the partner, but they've lived in basically an insignificant place in the NBA. No one, this narrative, this negative narrative about John Wall is because no one sees him on national TV. We know that he's a different player here. He's not the same guy he was when he first came up. He's a real leader of this team. I've been saying all season, like most, he's the best pure point guard in basketball. But you missed out on every one of however many games he would have played against Cleveland being a national story because you're playing LeBron. So this would really let people on a national stage see John night in and night out for 4, 5, 6, 7 games, see the Wizards, get to know them a little bit, and it was just an opportunity for the franchise to take a big step and for their superstar. And again, because if free agents are going to look, and they know, but if free agents are out there and they look at John put up, 29 and 12 in a series against Cleveland, I'll go play with that dude. That dude's unbelievable.
But the real story with the Wizards is the bench, and the real story, I think, for the Wizards, not being able to win on the road as well.
Yeah. They were an incomplete team. They had a really good, solid starting 5. And that masked, on most nights, certainly at home, that masked all the issues. That they weren't deep. That they would get rattled. And look, I wasn't up there. From the guys who covered the game in Boston, we see it on TV. But Chris Miller said you could literally feel the floor shake in Boston. But yeah, they just they weren't quite ready yet. They don't have the team yet, and they're in a tough spot because they have a lot of free agency coming up and Otto Porter decision on max money and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, their starting five masked that there were some pretty big issues with that team.
Well, we're going to talk baseball now and football, and now that the race is over and all that stuff. Rob Carlin joining us here. Rob Carlin, CSN, out on Twitter, as well as Sports Talk CSN. You buying what the Orioles are selling? I mean, look, the Nationals aren't even worth talking about because they have no competition, right? I mean, they can play 540 ball or 580 ball or 620 ball. It's just going to matter where they're going to be in October. No one's coming to catching them. The Orioles, however, this is going to be an interesting summer for them because you talk about a flawed team offensively and from a pitching perspective, but they've gotten off to a nice quarter pole.
It's amazing, man. It's the Buck Showalter thing. They plug in this has been for years now, like Nestor hitting walk-off home runs, and, they call up these guys. Buck gets every little ounce out of these guys. My emails, daily emails about roster moves from the Orioles, I'm like, wow, they're moving 2 or 3 pieces every single day just to keep this shell game going.
Yeah, wait till they have to start putting these guys on waivers because of that, like in August or whenever that's going to come, right?
I mean, know.
You only get so much of this. And look, the 10-day DL thing, it's like Buck wrote that rule, right? I mean, right. That was for him, quite frankly. It's like the Belichick rule or something, that he's going to, I don't want to say abuse it, but certainly use it to his advantage to stay in this race and, have 13 pitchers, 14 pitchers deep, because that's what it's going to take, especially if you're going to run Wade Miley and Ubaldo Jimenez out there every 5 days.
Right, and we've all been saying it for so many years, like eventually you got to get a top-of-the-rotation guy that's, Bundy looks like he could be there one day, and Gossman I just can't figure out, but yeah, I mean, the comparison to Belichick, other than obviously all the championships, is so right on. Like, Belichick, for all the hate, certainly from Baltimore, but pretty much around the NFL, if you're not a Patriots fan, I mean, that dude sees the system, gets the system, and then figures out a way to play it. Like, he plays the system the way it should be played.
Some would say gaming the system.
Yeah. But so Buck doesn't go quite that far, but he sees the rules, sees how to get through it, how to negotiate it.
I have a feeling Buck has hidden out some players in hotels without folks knowing. I have a feeling that's happened.
Sure, and I wouldn't blame him. I mean, it's professional sports. You do what you got to do. But it's, Buck, I mean, he's amazing that he keeps them in it every year. 'Cause every year I'm like, no way. Oh, they lost Matt Wieters. No, they're done. How many hits can this take? And he keeps finding ways to keep them out there and relevant, and that core has been good enough, but eventually you just have to have 2 pitchers you could depend on. The others haven't had 2 pitchers you could depend on in forever.
Well, I like Bundy.
Most of the time, they don't even have one.
When Bundy pitches, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely, because you see that's special. That's special.
Or it could be special every 5th day. I mean, in the way that Messina or Bedard or a handful of guys could be special we never saw that version of Arrieta. I always love seeing Gonzalez and Wang and Chen just go out there and actually do it. Just on the morning that they're pitching, you're like, all right, well, 9 o'clock they'll still be pitching. I mean, and the game will be 4-3 or 5-4 or 2-1 or whatever. We'll have a baseball game tonight. Boy, the nights Jimenez goes out, and Miley on Sunday as well. It's just always one of those. You're biting your nails, and there's always runners on, and there's always ball 1 and ball 2 and deep counts, and we're at 100 pitches, and it's the 4th inning, and here we go again, right?
Yeah, and then the bullpen's taxed, and the whole thing. I mean, and the crazy thing is, look, I don't want to shortchange it. They had some good runs and went on, some playoff runs, but the Wei-Yin Chen and the Gonzalez years, like, we're now looking back at those as like the good old days. And even then we were like, man, they still need like a real top of the starter and maybe a 2 to make me feel good. Those guys were like pretty good, solid 3s and 4s. But like you said, they'd go out there and grind and get you 6-7 innings and keep you in a ball game. But forever, like, that franchise has just either not been willing to or giving it to the wrong guy in Ubaldo. You guys got to get someone that you could depend on every 5th day to give you, to break a losing streak, to keep a winning streak going. And they have not had that in forever, but they've got a great manager and a good enough core that'll just, bash the hell out of you until they win a game.
Don't let B. Mitch give you a hard time down on that Redskins nonsense and whole chicken line and all that good stuff. We'll be watching all summers as we cry our red tears for the for the Caps and those who love the Wizards in these parts. Rob Carlin, CSN is the way to find Rob. You can also find him out at Sports Talk CSN each and every day. And hopefully the baseball thing will keep us alive here the next couple of months, right?
Sounds good, man. I appreciate the time. It's fun talking with you.
Always love having Rob Carlin on the program. Find him out on Twitter and at CSN. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day. From anywhere in the world on your mobile device, just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning. That is brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get yourself onto a treadmill, onto a weight deck, and hey, it's summertime, right? Why not? Get yourself in the best shape of your life. Learn more at planetoftriumphs.com, where there's some inspiration to go along with your perspiration. You can also get the WNST tech service. Rob was talking about these pictures going back and forth. That is the shuttle service. That is the WNST tech service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am a very available individual. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.